So that's the unceremonious end to the season. Taps is aptly being played. The accumulation of the worst season on record that I could think of. So this is the Giants' 100th year. And in the 100th year, in true Giants fashion, they have to do it spectacularly bad, have the worst season possibly in franchise history, the most losses in franchise history, and on top of it all, a division rival wins the Super Bowl going away. So, guys, closing the chapter on 2024. Um, I don't even know if we could say 2025 is bright, but it's 2025 and it's not 2024. That's the best we can say. And the Jets weren't in much of a better boat. So
Nope.
we are the three angry Giant fans and the Jet fans. Host Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Jets fan Novak. And but boys, season went out with a whimper.
Yeah, I'm really not sure why you're playing taps. Like, I am so glad to see this shit end. I would like, we celebrate good time. Like, it was unbelievable. And I know we'll talk about this, but then 2025 starts and Eli gets a snub in the Hall of Fame just to sort of cram it in our face a little bit more. So here we go.
Yeah. 100th season and by far the worst, arguably the worst ever. And once you saw what the Eagles did to Washington the week before, I mean, even before that, there was, Scott showing the 100th season commemorative. There was no stopping this Eagles train. And with Barkley, I mean, right? I mean, it just seemed like so fitting that he's going to get a Super Bowl ring first year in Philadelphia, and God forbid they continue to get more there. But thank God this season's over. Just, I mean, I couldn't wait for this. Was this the worst or the most anticipated ending of a season in our lifetime? Just wanted it to end. Just wanted it to be over. What's the old saying? JETS, Novak, just end the season.
Just end the season.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's so crazy that I'm the lone Jets fan in this podcast, and you would think that I'm the one who dealt. I mean, my team went into this year as the ones that should have been, in the playoffs and had the expectations and all of that. You guys really didn't. This season could not have been scripted worse for a Giant fan. Yeah. From the quarterback play to the losses to the drama to Daniel Jones to Saquon Barkley to the Eagles to Eli not getting in to winning a meaningless game to not get the number one pick.
Yep.
You couldn't write it any worse for a Giant fan. You really couldn't. Am I saying that wrong?
No, it's perfect.
No, there's a good point in there too. Like, we had to get a meaningless win in the middle of our worst season ever. Because if we got the number one pick out of this, we couldn't then say it was all bad, right? At least we got the number. No, we had to have the third pick. It couldn't be. This has to be the worst possible outcome in every way, shape, and form.
Yep.
From watching division rivals not only win the Super Bowl, but Washington now has got a quarterback who looks like he could be a problem for us for a while. Dallas. They're finally, I think, going away, but so are we. So who cares?
They're always
right?
better than us. I mean, we are last place for life. It feels like after this season, last place for life.
So before we get into the specifics and break down everything, including the Eli snub and all of that, let's give a shout out one last time for this year. By the way, this year we had, I don't know what about this week. I don't know if it was replaying the Super Bowl episode that we did, but we had more international downloads than we did in the United States. We had a ton from Australia. We had a ton from Japan. We had international downloads from all over the place. Right. It was really strange. So,
konnichiwa, my friends.
Shrimp on the Bobby.
So let's give a domestic shout out. So hello, Wichita Falls, Texas. It's population 102,316. It's right on the border with Oklahoma. And it was named, oddly enough, for a waterfall on the Wichita River. So not a lot of guesswork on that one. It's the home of the Hotter in Hell 100, which is the longest single-day bike race in the United States, and it's held in August in Texas. So you could tell that it's really really freaking hot, and it's also the home. I'll ask you guys if you know who this is. Phil McGraw. Do you know who Phil McGraw is?
Phil
Should know.
McGraw? No.
Dr.
Quick draw.
Phil.
Dr. Phil, yeah.
Oh,
He's the home of
yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Phil.
All right.
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil from Wichita Falls, Texas.
So,
The only thing I could think of, whenever I hear Wichita,
Phil,
all I think about is Del Griffith and Neil Page being diverted to Wichita when they were trying to get home for Thanksgiving in planes, trains, and automobiles. They're in
Funny thing
Wichita.
about that is 2 weeks from now I'll be in both Wichita and Omaha. So I will actually be in Wichita. This is Wichita Falls, so it's not even in the same state as Wichita. So
The hotter than hell bike race?
the hotter than hell bike.
That
100.
sounds like
the hotter than hell 100.
Who wants to do that? Stop it.
Yeah.
Oh, I do the hotter than hell bike race. Fuck off. Who wants to do that?
Yeah. No. Stop it.
It's a 100-mile bike race in probably 100-degree weather.
Sounds awful. I would want
It
no part
really
of that.
sounds
Just awful.
like the worst possible thing.
Right?
You know what? It does sound better then. It sounds better though than watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl, which is exactly what happened on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we at different times in the day, Novak and Cardone were at my house. We had a few people over, not a big gathering, but I made some chili. We had some hot snacks, and I will say this: we're being gaslit by the NFL, saying that this Super Bowl is the most watched ever. Either that or they're fudging the numbers, because I had so many people that were apathetic about this game. Even the people in our house watching the game, we weren't excited at all.
No.
Cardone, I mean, we're just sitting
No.
there. We're sitting back there almost like it's like a game in early November in the NBA between like the Clippers and the Timberwolves.
Yeah. Yeah, the game. This much like the Chiefs. I mean, you guys know I use the word fervor all the time, right? I mean, and there was that team. I think it was only 7-0, and I think I might have said to you, Scott, or your brother-in-law Steve. I go, Kansas City's dead. I mean, their body language, their facial expression, they were absolutely dead. So I don't know. Maybe they're just exhausted. Now you're hearing, Kelsey's coming out saying that he might want to retire. Who knows? That could be a knee-jerk reaction, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. I mean, credit to Philadelphia, no question, man. They came out just absolutely balls out, like the way you're supposed to, for that game. And they had no chance of losing, and Kansas City had absolutely no chance of winning. So, Novak, I was thinking about you a couple times because just watching Kelsey and Mahomes get their ass kicked, that was fun
great.
too. There was no doubt. I mean, Mahomes looked silly. And I couldn't help but think a couple times, like, oh, yeah, like we saw it against Tampa in the Super Bowl a few years ago, but you don't see Mahomes running around like that too much. And I can't help but think of Daniel Jones and the Giant offensive line, because it always comes back to the Giants for me. And I was just, looking at Mahomes and like, oh, yeah, put anybody behind that kind of pressure and see what happens. What a disaster.
I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I loved every minute of watching the Chiefs suffer. And you know what was great too? And how much I hate Sirianni and I hate Philadelphia. I actually kind of loved that the Chiefs were outcoached on every phase. That game, that they were just outcoached, outclassed. Every cliche you want to put in there, that was that. And I'm going to say, I know it's recency bias, worst Super Bowl of all time.
Oh,
I really do. Other than maybe the 49ers Chargers from like the mid 90s, this had to have been the worst Super Bowl of all time because it was just completely dominated. Never felt like it was a game. Even Tom Brady, and on top of it, Tom Brady was terrible. I do like Tom Brady normally. He was bad on this game. He was tough to listen to. Burkhardt wasn't great. The spectacle, the halftime show, the whole thing was just a disaster.
We've mentioned it many times this season, but I think it came out to everyone on Sunday, and that's the Chiefs were getting by because the NFL had put them in that position all year long. They made them the number one seed. They had them win every close game, and that happens. And you saw what really does happen when they get up against a team that's superior, because they look like they did not compete against that team. And the Chiefs might have been, and no one's going to say this because of the dynasty, they might have been the weakest number one seed ever. They might have been the least deserving team ever to be the number one seed. And we said it before, it was completely manufactured, at least in our belief, on how that happened.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of watching that game, Scott, was this is what happens to a team like the Chiefs when the refs, I stay impartial, when they don't decide the game. This is what happens. We talked about it throughout the year, how many consecutive one-score games that they won, and everyone points to that like it's oh my God, this accomplishment. It's not an accomplishment. It's mathematically impossible without help to do that.
Yes, that's true.
It's not, people always look at things from the wrong angle, at least in my opinion. But yeah, there's no team's going to win 11 straight one-score games. I mean, it's just any little thing goes against you in those games. We've seen teams be on the other side of things like that. And you can go back to every one of those games and know, my God, if we didn't drop that pass on third down, damn it, if the ref just didn't call that hold on that play, it's mathematically well beyond improbable for the Chiefs to have the season that they had. We aren't the only ones who saw it. We're not Chiefs fans. The Giants didn't play the Chiefs this year, but we all know, everyone saw it. The NFL can gaslight us all they want, and horse shit on the most watched Super Bowl ever.
No, come on.
I don't care.
Stop
It's
it.
not even possible. I have never been part of a lead up to a Super Bowl where more people individually told me I'm not even watching it. That's never happened before, ever.
No.
I did acquiesce, and I did watch most of the game, even though I said I wasn't going to. But I did it in protest, and I did it because I know that tonight was happening. I was going to have to sit here and talk about it. So I took the last bullet for the season and watched one more horrific game. But yeah, I don't buy any of it. It's horse shit. I agree with you, Novak. One of the lamest Super Bowls I can remember. It was going to have to be a pretty awesome game for me to not have that opinion. I'll admit that. I was going to call this a shitty Super Bowl no matter what happened. But yeah, just lived up to the lack of hype.
Do you guys know which play I've seen more than any other play since the Super Bowl ended?
Is it the Mahomes strip sack fumble where he gets hit in the face?
The Cooper DeJean interception?
Nope. It's the Mahomes meaningless touchdown pass at the very end of the game.
Yeah. Really?
They keep talking about this as if this shows that the Chiefs showed fight and the Chiefs never gave up.
Jesus.
Meanwhile, the Eagles had Kenny Pickett in there the series before. And you guys, and Cardone knows I had despair over that play because that play alone cost me $1,200 because we were in a pool where we had Travis Kelce, and anyone who had Worthy ended up getting leapfrogging us because he had 2 touchdowns, and that last play is the one that did it. We went from winning $1,500 to winning $300 in a matter of one play. So I might have to join Cardone's train of boycotting.
That's why I'm retired again. I'll say it every time, guys, because as soon as you said that, Scott, the first thing I thought, I'm like, God, I don't know how you handled it well. You always do. I'm like that. I'd be like, just, I don't know, man, punching a hole in the wall like I threatened to do at Mike's house years ago.
As long as you come back with your tool belt and your spackle,
right.
It's all good.
I don't even own a tool belt. I'm like, I'll be here with my tool belt, my spackle set, whatever it takes. I've never spackled anything in my life. I wouldn't even know what the hell it is.
What do you like, Spicoli?
Yeah.
My dad's got a massive set of tools. He can fix it.
He's a TV repairman. Ultimate set of tools. I can fix it.
For those of the listening audience that don't know this story, this was a great one because was it the San Francisco championship game?
It was.
The 11 championship game at Mike's.
And Cardone actually apologized to Mike's wife and said, Bonnie, if I put a hole in your wall, I will come back and I will fix it. I wanted to see that happen just to see the aftermath, more than anything else.
It was like the Giants were lining lining up for the game-winning field goal, and he said, if they miss this kick, I'm going to punch a hole in the wall. And Bonnie had like this look of terror on her face.
She did.
And well, we still don't know if you were serious. I'm kind of with Scott. I wouldn't mind seeing him miss that.
Thank God Tynes put it through. Yeah.
You were like, don't worry, I'll be back tomorrow. Tool belt, spackle, good as new.
I own none of that stuff. I would have been at Home Depot that morning.
But like win, we celebrate. We probably had a few more beers, and you guys cast off. And Bonnie's like, do you think he really would have punched a hole in the wall? I said, I don't know. Luckily, we don't have to find out.
What I thought the biggest travesty in this game is that for 3.5 quarters, the Eagles suffocated the Chiefs, and yet the MVP goes to the quarterback, of course. He does not go to a defensive player, does not go to someone who probably deserves it, goes to the quarterback, because when you can't find someone who stands out individually on defense, it always goes to the quarterback. Or if you're not Ray Lewis.
I really didn't have a big problem with Hurts getting. He played very well, I thought. But yeah, the story of that game was the Eagles' defense. There's no doubt.
But Hurts played great. He did.
He did.
He did.
Again, his numbers won't blow you away, but when he made just great throw after great throw, and he looked just like he knew where he wanted to go with the football. The guy played a great game.
He did.
Just a great game. It's funny. I was looking at the box score
when it was appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Made great decisions, made great throws. Looking at the box score, it's interesting. Mahomes, ironically, had more completions, more yards, more touchdowns than Hurts. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
After
surprised they didn't give him. Yeah. Surprised they didn't give him the MVP anyway. Give it to Mahomes.
With the guard.
Well, it's clear that the Chiefs went in with the idea that we're not gonna let Barkley beat us, but they seem to forget the fact that they have Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, and an incredible offensive line that gives Hurts plenty of time. And it was just an ass kicking. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Therein lies the problem. I couldn't agree with that more, Novak. And you know what? The Chiefs did a great job on Barkley. An amazing job on Barkley.
Yeah.
Yep. But you say, hey, if Hurts and these receivers are going to beat us, that's fine. We're not getting beat today by Barkley. Well, you picked your poison and you lost.
That was the only but Novak, you made a good point about being out coached, because that was the only resemblance of any game plan. Okay, they had one game plan to stop that Barkley was not going to beat them, but outside of that, offensively, you knew right away Eagles were getting tremendous pressure with just 4 men, right? They didn't even have to blitz. And when the team can do that, that was one of those where, the Chiefs are they don't have a chance. That was one of those, halves where I don't think they can get past the 50, which I don't remember when it exactly was when they got past midfield.
Like the fourth quarter.
Something like that.
Yeah,
it was absurd. They had 20, whatever they had, the 23 yards at halftime or 40, something like that. But I kept thinking, Scott, right? We kept saying, barking at how about a screen pass? Do something to alter this pass rush, or get, drop a screen pass in with the rush coming up the field or something. But if you think about that, if you're only sending 4 guys, there is still there is that mid-level of a defense. They didn't have to blitz. So I had to remind myself, oh man, they're getting this pressure without even, blitzing a 5th or 6th guy. So, great game plan by Philly, just defensively and offensively. So man, they just out coached, out game planned, out everything. Kansas City, and so Philly deserved that game by a mile, and they got it, man. So they got 2 Super Bowl championships now.
The moment I loved was if there was ever a knock on Andy Reid, especially with his Eagles days, right? It was that he would give up on the run way too early all the time. So they get down 17-0. I think it was 17-0 when they got down, and they get the ball back. And the first 2 plays, they run the ball right up the middle. And I'm thinking, okay, this is Andy Reid is like, we're not going to panic. We're running the ball. Let's run the ball. He probably went to the offense coordinator, run the ball. Well, 2 plays right up the middle got stuffed. They throw it on 3rd down, incomplete, punt it back. The Eagles score another touchdown before the half. And I don't think the Chiefs ran the ball again the rest of the game after that.
They didn't.
So that was Andy Reid's token. All right, we're going to run the ball 2 plays.
In true Eagles fashion, they have a blow up on the sideline with AJ Brown and Sirianni, and the very next series, AJ Brown gets a touchdown.
Yeah.
Well,
and then everyone's laughing about the blowout then, right? Oh.
Well, say what you want about those Eagles. They're not going anywhere anytime soon either.
That,
No.
be
And that
surprised.
and talk about, everyone says it, and it's so cliche. You win from the inside out. That offensive line and that defensive line are friggin' stacked, and
Yeah.
they're built for the next 4 or 5 years. I don't think anyone's like a risk to leave. I think they're under contract from what I read. That Howie Roseman, I mean, God, executive of the year, because look at the team that he has built.
Yeah.
And they are young, and they are big, and they are fast, and they are, God,
Yep.
Problem.
It's
that's a
Yeah.
problem.
It's every
before
single
this
year.
10 years out. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Cardone. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. Mike, continue.
I was just going to tack on to what Novak said. I think before this era of Eagles football is out, they may have the same or more. They may catch us in Super Bowls, guys. It's not really far fetched to think they could get 2 more out of this team.
Yeah,
The Chiefs
agreed.
did not surpass us.
They did
No,
not.
the Chiefs
That's
did not.
A couple of good things. Now they have 4 all time, so that's one good news to come out of this game is that they didn't pull ahead of the New York Football Giants. But yeah, every year, every NFL season brings a completely different dynamic. Like a lot of things have to go right to go all the way and win it. But it's true. At a minimum, the Eagles are poised to at least be a top seed in the NFC, and whether they win the whole thing, a couple more times, who knows, right? I mean, it's hard to predict that. It's hard to,
Very
it's
difficult.
very difficult. But but the fact is that if things stay intact, and you know what, we've said a lot about Sirianni on this pod, and again, it's one of those guys where, like him, dislike him, whatever. And it seems like the players do play for this guy, and the organization has rallied around this guy. They're in a good spot, man. And like the Eagles, like it's true, they are. They're going to be around for a while. They're going to be a problem for at least a few years. So whether it's and as where the Giants are right now, it's so hard to see them even remotely competing in that division, let alone in the conference. And so it's going to be another. It's going to be some more pain, at least for next year, and a couple months out from the draft. But we're putting a close to the. Thank God this season, but all we can do is look for the draft and see what the hell happens with our team.
And as a Giant fan, it's such a kick in the nuts, not only to see the Eagles win, but to see Sirianni on the sideline yucking it up with Big Dom, of course, who gets camera time during the Super Bowl. And it's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's like everything that we rail about with the Eagles ends up being celebrated in the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well said.
I had it too. I mean, our biggest draft bust, other than Zach Wilson, was Mekhi Becton, and he's sitting on the ground crying. Probably, and it made it look like, thank God I get out of that hellhole in New York, and I'm actually here with confetti falling down with a Super Bowl champion about to make millions of dollars as the next great guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it doesn't end. It just
at
doesn't
11
stop.
a.m. Novak. I mean, you already had some news from the Jets already.
did.
That on Super Bowl Sunday, Aaron Rodgers announces he's probably not coming back to the Jets.
He is not coming back to the Jets.
Yeah.
And I had said at the end of the pod the last time we were on that I kind of wanted him back, and I did. But the way that they handled it, if this is true how they handled it, I'm actually excited about it. They apparently told him, if you're going to come back, we'll love to have you back, but you're coming back on our terms. No McAfee show. You're gonna be the guy, but we're not going to run everything through you. You're going to be a quarterback, and that's all you're going to be. And in typical Dick fashion, he said, I'm not going to do that, so he's not coming back. I actually like the way that went down. If that's true, and it seems like it was, we're not going to put up with that garbage anymore. And so maybe, hopefully, this is a new regime, a new lease on life. Maybe this is a new culture. Who knows? Hope springs eternal at this point of the year for every Jet fan, and it'll last 5 months, then it'll be done by training camp.
I hadn't heard that, Novak, but if I'm a Jets fan, that excites me. I mean, that is pretty cool for them to say, listen, no darkness retreats. You're going to be here in whatever,
and
training camp,
yep,
all that, and no McAfee show. I love that. Yep, just you're going to be here and be the quarterback and keep your mouth shut and play. And that he couldn't abide by those rules says all you need to know.
Yep, 100%.
So, Mike, the final tally of the season from the predictions. Do we have who won the playoffs? Was it
We
Cardone?
have
Cardone.
Cardone is the winner. He was out on an island with Philly in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
As we know. I refrained from picking, and I'm sorry. I think that's funny. I would have picked the Eagles.
We'll give you a tie for that. I don't know. We'll give you.
I always love though because it brings one of the words out that I love in the English language: abstain. I like when someone abstains. I abstain. I want to say that sometimes. I just abstain.
So Cardone ends up. You guys tell me if this is the right amount of games. I think this is. Cardone ends up 9-4, so 13 playoff games.
That's pretty good.
That's right.
Impressive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Novak goes to 7-6. Scott goes to 6-7, and Mike remains at 6-6 because he did not make a pick.
So I'm the only one below 500, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So well, yeah, technically. Although I guess if you give me a tie, I'm 6.5 and 6.5.
So the other big news this week was the announcement of the Hall of Fame inductees. And again, we mentioned this in the opening, that another kick to the Giant fans' nuts, and that Eli, who had been talked about as going into the Hall of Fame earlier, even in the week that it happened, all of a sudden at the 24th hour, not only is he not in, he wasn't even one of the final finalists.
Yeah.
And guys, one of the finalists was Adam Vinatieri that didn't get in. And I know he's a kicker, but if Adam Vinatieri doesn't get in as a kicker, why even have that position up for debate in the Hall of Fame?
If he's not a first ballot Hall of Fame kicker, then you're right, Scott. Then kickers can't be in the Hall of Fame. He's the best kicker of all time.
And the other thing I don't know this. One of you guys might know this. They made the rules different this year. I think at Dion's urging, apparently, to make it a little bit more difficult to get in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what the mechanism is that made it harder, but apparently that also impacted what happened, because we only have 4 people going in, and it's Jared Allen, Eric Allen, Sterling Sharp and
Gates.
Antonio Gates.
I started to read that article, Scott, and I couldn't. Anything with Deion Sanders pisses me off, so I couldn't get through it. I was pissed off just at the headline. I'm like, what the fuck does this guy have to do with the voter procedure and all that? And I guess his voice is loud enough, but who knows if he altered it or not. But yeah, apparently it was more difficult to get in this year, not only this year, but maybe going forward, I guess. But for Eli, yes, I was thinking the same thing. At 9 o'clock, I think we all texted, right? I mean, it's funny. I woke up that day. That was the only thing I was excited about, to end this year, and also to watch the NFL Honor Show, which, by the way, you talk about just horrific NFL productions and an NFL brand. I actually sat and watched that Honor Show just to hear Eli Manning's name get called in the hopes that it would get called for the Hall of Fame induction. And to sit and watch that fucking garbage on Thursday night was absolutely painful. Painful.
Yeah.
I don't know where to even start with it. The jokes, the all of it. I mean, it's absolutely an abomination that I couldn't believe I sat through and witnessed that on my television screen. But the thing with Manning, with Eli, is just it's just another way of the media deciding who to anoint, who to keep down. It was the final, or who knows when he's going to get in now at this point. Really, I don't know. It's not a guarantee even next year. This could be a process, guys. This could be a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 year process with Manning. You don't know, but it's just another way of saying, of the media and the writers and the voters, to say you're not as great as the greatest. You're just not. And maybe so, but I'm going to get into my pet peeve a little bit, but I'll bring it up later when we go through peeves. But it's just another kick in the nuts, man. For not only for Giant fans, but for Eli Manning as well. Just another dick slap in the face that he's just not considered an all-time great.
You were talking about this too, just right then, and that's, next year Drew Brees is going. He's up for induction. So Drew Brees obviously is going to have more consideration than Eli Manning. The year after, it's Ben Roethlisberger. who may get in, and then the year after that is Brady. So, like you said, I mean, unless they take multiple quarterbacks and multiple players of that caliber, he could be looking at several years of not getting in. Um, and it's funny you mentioned that award show. I can't even remember who the host was 2 years ago, but I watched that and it was very awkward because they stuck a microphone in Jim Brown's face, and Jim Brown was comatose and just sitting there like this. And obviously he didn't say anything, and a few months later the man's dead. But it's like, do you not know what's going on? It's like a live show, and you're shoving a microphone in the face of a guy who clearly can't even say anything. So like you said, it was cheesy back then. I think they did a skit with Kirk Cousins because he was on that show Quarterback that year. And so they did something with him, and he sang or something like that. It was just cringy all around, and I didn't watch it this year because last year was just abomination.
No, it's such bullshit. It's so clear that they just, it's not supposed to be the Hall of Famers aren't supposed to, or the voters are not supposed to say, is this guy a first ballot Hall of Famer or not? It's just whether or not you're a Hall of Famer. But it's so clear what happened here is Eli's not a first ballot guy, and we can't give him that.
Yeah.
And they never forgave him for whatever he did on draft day with the Chargers. They always kept that in their craw. A lot of them spent their entire career tearing him down while he proved them wrong week after week after week after week. Why the media votes for this, I have no idea. I have no idea what the media has to do with the excellence of an NFL player or whether or not they get in the Hall of Fame. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. And if Eli Manning's not in it, it's not a Hall of Fame to me. So, by the way, the entire class of inductees has 0 championship wins.
Yeah. I mean,
no Super Bowls.
The other thing is, too, the NFL is all about show anymore. Would it not have been a headliner to have Eli be the guy? And now,
that's why I thought he was
who's the headliner of this class?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking.
I don't have one.
As a Jet fan, the patron saint, greatest Jet of all time, Joe Namath, got in because of one game. And I'll admit that, right? Now, I will also argue that it's probably the biggest win in the history of sports. I would argue that it is. Eli Manning had 2 of the greatest runs in playoff history in all of sports. And the fact that he is not in, regardless of all the other stats they want to throw out as reasons he's not in, is complete bullshit. This sport is about championships and about drama and about wins and it's also about, like, the greatest ability is availability. That guy what was his streak? That alone should get him in. Forget the championships. He never was hurt. He was always on the field. And, as a Jet fan, I hated him kind of because it was like, again, they're in the Super Bowl. They're winning again. He deserves to be in. I think it's a travesty. It's a joke. How some of these guys that got in who, you read down that list of guys, Scott, good players, solid players. Do I think they're Hall of Famers? Not one of them. I mean, I really don't. Maybe Antonio Gates because, he was a great tight end. But other than that, I mean, they're good players. And I think he's getting a hard time now because you're right. Look at the rosters that are potentially going in for the next 2 to 3 years. I think he had to get in this year. I think his last name actually hurt him because he's not his brother. And I think that probably hurt, but we'll see what happens.
The one thing that does help, though, I think then the Super Bowl championships will even elevate his cause, though. Even Breeze's numbers are off the chart. That we know that.
Right.
Yeah.
But when those other quarterbacks do come around, Rivers is another one that's sitting out there. The 2 that came to mind for me were Rivers and Matt Ryan. Like if those guys, like those, you know what I mean? Like those, but they'll be really close.
They will. I mean, you're right. And if they do, and he doesn't, that is complete bullshit.
Because here's the thing: like they talk about Eli all the time. It's like, well, he wasn't, during his era, he was never part of the top. I went back and looked at a lot of stats and stuff and all those things. He was playing in that era without a doubt, even more than today, right now, of the quarterback. I mean, you're talking about Rodgers in his prime, Brady, Manning, Peyton, Breeze. There's a few. It was absolutely. These are the best. These Favre, the best numbers in history, and probably will be. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I don't know if we'll see that many guys throwing. There were multiple guys throwing for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns a game. It was absolutely absurd, video game-esque, and that's curtailed back a lot in just since Manning has retired in 5 years. So the fact that people want to knock him down, listen, you can do any narrative you want in terms of how you can elevate a guy or knock a guy down. So we'll see. Obviously we'll see. What happens in the next couple of years. But I'm going to pay real close attention because then what will happen is if Breeze goes in first ballot, which I think he should and he will.
Yeah, he will.
He will. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. He only won one. You know what I mean? Like, what are his playoff stats? Then the playoff stat comes in. That stuff starts to matter more. And Eli, that's where he excels over a lot of those guys. During his era is that who has the playoff, like you just said, Novak. I don't care, and I'm going to mention this in my peeve. I think I have a good analogy. How I always like to do analogies, and I thought of something today, and I wrote it down. I'll give it to you a little bit later.
What I think with Eli too that's a travesty here is that the thing I heard when he didn't get in was that he's never had an outstanding season. He's got a season on the books where not only did he have the most yardage in throwing in a playoff run ever, you combine that with his regular season, he has the most yards passing ever in a season.
Yeah. No quarterback over any single season has thrown for more yards than Eli Manning did in 2011.
Exactly.
It's never brought up.
That one gets conveniently left out.
And the other thing I don't understand, he's got 3 straight Pro Bowl wins as a coach.
And we know the significance of that.
Maybe they didn't have time to factor that in, Scott. That's a good one. That's a good one.
He's beaten another Pro Bowl, or he's beaten another Hall of Famer.
I always found it, and Cardone touched on this a little bit, but I always found when they're talking about Hall of Fame guys, but was he ever the best during the time he played? Was he ever the one thing that drove me nuts, and I heard it 100 times last week, was how many All Pros he was, not Pro Bowl, right? All Pro. So the media decides who goes in the Hall of Fame, and they're saying Eli Manning doesn't have enough All Pros, which, by the way, he was snubbed on that multiple times as well, where he should have been an All Pro and after some of those seasons. But guys, guess who picks the All Pros? The media. So the media refused to make him an All-Pro, and then at his Hall of Fame induction, or when he's up for the Hall of Fame, they say, well, he doesn't have enough. Well, then fucking you guys didn't give him enough.
Exactly.
Jesus.
All I know, I think Bob Greasy's in the Hall of Fame. I could be wrong, but I know for a fact Warren Moon is in the Hall of Fame.
He is.
Yes.
And if Warren Moon is in the Hall of Fame, and Eli Manning does not get into the Hall of Fame, it's an absolute travesty.
Jim Kelly's another one.
Well, then, and that's the case. Then tell us what the criteria is, because it doesn't make any sense. If the whole basis of sport is to win, Warren Moon didn't win dick, right? He didn't win a Super Bowl, did he?
No.
So if it's all about yards and touchdowns, but not winning, then tell us that. But it's supposed to be about winning. And he's won 2 Super Bowls, not 1, 2, and 1 against an undefeated all-time great team. Thank God they won that game.
No
and
kidding.
Bob Greasy is not in the Hall of Fame.
I didn't think so, but
no,
I didn't.
No, he's not. He's on the Dolphins Walk of Fame, and
that means nothing.
He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. But one of them, I think he split with Don Strock.
That's right. My guy.
Oh, Strock. That's right.
Old Don Strock.
You guys got anything before we move into pet peeves?
Well, if we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that disaster of a halftime show. Someone's got to explain to me what the hell was going on there.
Wait a minute. Wait. You cannot dislike the halftime show without being racist. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, you better be careful, Novak.
Listen, I enjoyed when he said John Stockton, and I didn't understand anything else.
I was busy getting chili. I think Scott's chili at that during that segment, so I don't think I watched any of it.
By the way, I made chili this year with I did pork country ribs, cut them into cubes.
I need that recipe.
and let them simmer in the chili for 6 hours until they became, basically pull apart. It was very tender. Um,
Well,
I think
for
I'm going to
what
try that again because it's a lot like using stew meat. I usually use stew meat and beef, and it becomes like it just melts in your mouth when you get done with it. That's what this did.
for what it's worth, I liked
Nice.
SZA, whoever she is. She was good. I
Mhm.
liked her.
I heard something, and this is what gives me pause about the NFL saying that this was the most viewed Super Bowl ever. Is that they put out numbers saying that the halftime show had more viewership than the Super Bowl. So are you telling me people didn't watch the Super Bowl, but they tuned into the halftime show and then went back and not watched the Super Bowl, and it's still the most watched Super Bowl ever? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
why not? That
No.
makes complete sense. There's
I said to someone that I thought the halftime show was complete crap, and I said I didn't know any of the songs, and they told me that I didn't get it because I was white.
It has nothing to do with anything. I mean, if you don't like the music, you don't like the music. I mean, there's been a lot of Super Bowls where I've enjoyed it and I don't like the music, but I thought the performance was good. I'm not a Bruno Mars fan, but you can't deny the fact that he put on a
Or
good show.
just
He was
or just know
entertaining.
who the artist is. I don't know. That's
Exactly.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Who are these
hated when
people?
Coldplay was on. That
Yeah, they were
Right.
right.
I thought like who invites Coldplay
Yeah, they were
to,
terrible.
for an up tempo event or something like that. I hated Coldplay. Does that make me like hate white people? I don't get it. It's like
No, I forgot that they did. They were bad.
they were
that was really
terrible.
bad.
It
And I
was
thought
probably the worst halftime show ever.
I
Maybe
thought the
maybe
best
this last one was,
I
but
thought the best halftime show of all time was the one a few years ago, Dr. Dre, Eminem. I thought it was fantastic. But this one was, oh man, it was tough to
I
watch.
tell you what they need to do. They need to bring I can still remember preseason games back in the '80s at Giant Stadium, Giant Jet games. Have a couple dogs out there and have a guy launch a frisbee 80 yards and watch these dogs chase down a fucking frisbee. I'd
Yeah.
rather watch that over and over for 45 minutes than this bullshit that they're putting out there.
There's
Or
nothing better
punt,
than the
pass, and
frisbee
kick
dogs.
competitions. Bring out bring out 8 through 14-year-olds and have them punt and kick the ball and throw the ball out there like Andy Reid did when he was a 8-year-old. No, I'm sorry, he was a 14-year-old 8-year-old at the time or something. He was 8,
Yeah.
but he looked 14. Do that.
I love the
Seriously.
I always
single
liked
bar
the
helmet Andy Reid had.
The mascot football. I always like the
Yeah.
mascots playing against the kids when I went to the games and they had the mascot football. Loved
Absolutely.
that.
Bring mascot
Yeah.
flag football where Pogue,
Yeah.
that way, Pogue can redeem himself after tearing
Yeah.
his ACL. Bring that. I'd watch that.
Sir Per
Absolutely.
return punts.
Yeah.
So, Cardone, since we were dancing all over it, so go with your pet peeve.
Well, I have, I will. I'll just finish the thought. Really, I had two. I had 1 and 1A of pet peeves, and the one we've already been discussing. Basically, it's just because of Eli. I've never really paid that close attention to the Hall of Fame induction process or the procedure and how it works. But this was the year where I was, hoping that Eli would get in, thinking that, it was not a slam dunk, but pretty confident. And then realizing, right, guys, as the day went on, because I don't know if I finished my thought before, like 9 o'clock in the morning, I woke up thinking like, oh, he's getting in. And then we started getting the leaks from the media that like by 3 p.m. and that we're all texting each other like, I don't think he's getting in tonight. And we turned out it wasn't even close. But it's just what bothers me the most, one particular statistic bothers me the most that came up is his 117 and 117, his record, not the team's record. It's Eli Manning's record at his the Giants from 2013 till the end of his career are fucking garbage, right? I can point to one game at the New Orleans Saints when Breeze was still throwing the rock for the Saints, where Eli Manning threw 6 touchdown passes in a game, and somehow the Giants still managed to lose. So you take that one game away, and he's 118 and 116. Are we going to go through his entire career? I'll do it if I have to, because you know me, I would love to do it, and point to where and analyze each loss or win and see where was it really on Eli or was it not. This idea, because at the end of his career, it didn't cross my mind, nor did it come up from anywhere. Like, holy shit, Eli, the Giants better not keep losing games, or Eli, it's going to affect his Hall of Fame induction 5 years from now when he was retiring in 2019. Why is it with this particular football with Eli Manning? I've never heard a quarterback's overall record come into play at ever when he's on the ballot. It's come up with Eli Manning. Why? That's what I don't understand, is that there's different criteria for different guys, and it's bullshit. I'll just leave it at that. And then I started to think about it this way. I actually I love watching. I've been a golf and a PGA fan for a long, long time. And it's one of those things where, like, you wouldn't, if I asked you to name like golfers in the Hall of Fame, you probably could name the top guys, but then it's going to be a big drop off, right? So I started to think about Eli Manning as a quarterback and the ultimate team sport, but I started thinking about it individually. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, let me see a guy who's won 2 majors. And like, so I started to compare his career to like a Marco Mira. Marco Mira, right? You got, for golf fans,
I remember
right?
Marco Mira.
So Marco Mira,
ass perm.
So Marco Mira, like, or I initially thought of Bubba Watson, but then realized, all right, but Bubba Watson's not in the Hall of Fame, but maybe he gets in one day. When the reason I brought up those 2 particular guys is because, and just like what Eli did, making a run that Manning did and comparing it to like a golfer, for example, it's fucking hard to win majors. And when you look at the list of professional golfers all time, these guys have a chance to win 4 of these a year. And you can play golf for like 40 years. You have 100-something chances to win majors. And the list of guys that have won 2 or more, guess what? It's not a long list. And and that's including the Schauffele's and the Schefflers and those guys that have done it like recently, JT and those guys. But when you look at the all-time golfers that you think like, oh, this guy, he must have won 5, 6 majors. No. There's guys that won 1, some guys that won none, and then the guys that won like 2. And I'm like, Bubba Watson's a good example. Would you consider him one of the absolute all-time menacing greats? No, but is he a Hall of Fame kind of guy? Yeah, you know why? Longevity. The guy was able to win 2 Masters, and to win a major, especially at that place, you know what? That is not easy to do, and I don't care what he did the rest of his career. I don't care what Marco Mira did the rest of his year. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. If you win the year he had in 1998, where he was the best golfer of the year, well, that's what Eli Manning did for 2 playoff runs. I don't give a fuck what he did in the regular season, his interceptions, the guy made 2 runs that we haven't seen before. From Breezes and Paytons and Rodgers and Favres and Rivers and Roethlisberger. I just rattled off 7 guys that didn't do what he did. So that's why he's in. I'm tired of hearing about the team's record when he was playing. It's bullshit. It's irrelevant. Doesn't have anything to do with his greatness in those 2 playoff runs. And if Plaxico Burress didn't fucking shoot himself in the leg, he would have had 3, because that was the best Giant team they had in a long, long time, definitely in Eli's career, if not going all the way back to certainly back to the 2000 and beyond. But that turned out to be longer than I wanted. The other one, my pet peeve was, Eagle fans. You know what? You won the Super Bowl. Congratulations, great. Stop fucking saying thank you to the Giants for giving you Saquon Barkley. Okay,
Can we just
stop it?
Be done, please?
Okay? Because I went back. I thought about that one as well. I'm like, did we? I know a lot of Steeler fans. I don't remember going back to the Steeler fans and thanking them for fucking Plaxico Burress when he was tearing apart the Green Bay Packers in a championship game, and then subsequently 2 weeks later, caught a touchdown, the game-winning touchdown pass in Super Bowl 42. I wasn't fucking calling up any Pittsburgh Steeler fans and saying thank you for giving us Plaxico. I don't remember that. Did the Denver Broncos fans call Indianapolis fans and said thank you for Peyton? I don't know. I don't remember hearing about that. The Rams do that with Detroit and Stafford. I'll give you a different sport. Did the Miami Heat fan base call were they mocking Cleveland when LeBron went down to Miami? And then subsequently Laker fans say to do that to Miami when they got LeBron? This guy was winning championships all over the place except Cleveland. He did win one in Cleveland, but fine, you know what I'm saying. Like, what the hell, man?
So true. Like, did you thank the Cardinals for O.J. Anderson?
Yeah.
Good one. I forgot about that one. Thanks, Novak. Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Cardinals. Ha ha ha.
It's a running back. I mean, he dominated.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make any sense, Cardone. It's so funny. You're right, because I don't remember a time when that was such a story. And it was a story the whole media week because we were off last week.
But the whole year was
The whole year it was too. And yes, and they kept bringing up and kept bringing up. And he's still being asked about it after.
You know what I loved about this year? You looked at the Eagles and what they did. You had Josh Jacobs with the Packers. You had Derrick Henry with the Ravens. Those three guys all led teams in the playoffs. And if you look at the Eagles went against the trend. They had more rushing attempts this year than passing attempts. And we've been told that this is a passing league. And all of a sudden now the running back is coming back into the fold. And the Giants were crucified for taking Saquon Barkley at number 2 because it's just not positional value. You can't do that with a running back. When they wanted to pay him, the Giants got crucified because, well, you can't pay a running back that type of money. He goes to Philadelphia, and now it's like universally celebrated that Barkley's with the Eagles, running's cool again, and the Giants are ridiculously stupid for giving him up. I actually have a good friend who listens to this podcast who is very upset at the Giants and says the fireable offense that they got rid of Barkley. And I will tell you this right now, for the Giants and their team in the status that they're at now, the exact right move was to get rid of Barkley and not re-sign him. Now,
no doubt.
What was bad about it is that he went to a division rival and he helped him to a Super Bowl. But the decision to not re-sign him was not a bad one.
Yeah, we couldn't help where he went.
Right.
It's not. We didn't have any say in where he went. It's not like we traded him to the Eagles for nothing. But you're right, and that of course gets overlooked all the time. That Barkley nonsense is, here's what what would have happened if the Giants paid him exactly what the Eagles paid him. First of all, people would have gone nuts. The Giants overpaying again to keep their own players. Second of all, the Giants would have maybe won 5 games this year instead of 3, maybe. They're still nowhere near the playoffs. Barkley's nowhere near 2,000 yards, and everyone's laughing at us for re-signing him. The minute his contract was up, the Giants were in a lose-lose situation. Our best case scenario was that he went to Cleveland or Denver or, just out of our range.
Conference. Yeah.
But we had no control. That's the one thing we had no control over that. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, I understand that, but the Eagles, I'm like, what the hell did we have to do with that? He chose to go to the Eagles.
Yeah. No, I heard my buddy said we materially contributed to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. And I was like, how? We didn't trade him. He signed with the Eagles.
Signed.
He left here. The only other option was to trade him before he left, which we would have gotten maybe a 3rd or 4th rounder for him for. Sure, it's better than nothing in the grand scheme of things, but that's not how a team operates usually.
Yeah. And had we traded him for a 3rd or 4th rounder, which you're right, it was kind of the kind of value we would have got. Maybe if we found a real sucker, we could have got a 2nd rounder, but we'd be still getting universally laughed at for trading him. It's, just one of those things. We're going to have to take it.
So I'll go next with the pet peeves. We touched upon this a little bit. Pat Mahomes was very bad in the Super Bowl. And I think it was Cardone who was talking about, or no, I think it was Novak talking about Tom Brady, how he usually likes Tom Brady. They refused to put any blame on Patrick Mahomes during this game. Even when the rush was getting to him, we were watching Mahomes keep step up in the pocket when the pocket's collapsing around him rather than run around and try and find daylight or even extend the play and go out. He was moving into the pressure. And yet you never heard once anything said about Mahomes doing that. It was, Mahomes is being done in by a terrible offensive line. Mahomes is, he's being done in by the suffocating defense of Philadelphia. It wasn't anything about the bad throws he was making, which he was making in the first quarter. It wasn't about the bad decisions he was making. He threw some terrible interceptions, throwing the ball into harm's way. he didn't get any criticism for that. And I thought that was strange. It's okay that he's a great player in history. He had a bad game.
Terrible game.
And like I said, at the end of the day, they were praising him because he stood in there and threw a bomb for a meaningless touchdown late in the game and showed that he had fight and that the Chiefs didn't give in. Come on. He was not blamed at all for that loss. And I think that's ridiculous. He was the number one reason why the Chiefs did not win, where he is normally the reason they do win. So you got to call it both ways. I thought the analysis dropped the ball on that, and I get it. You're not going to rip him to shreds, but at least hold him a little bit responsible. Like he was throwing bad passes in the first quarter, and they kept blaming the receivers. Well, the receivers got to catch that as the ball's like 4 feet away from him.
Yeah. Well, you say you can't rip him to shreds. Why? Why can't you?
Why not?
Right? He deserved it.
Yeah.
Like, it actually would have made the game and the calling of the game a little more compelling if someone would have stepped up and was like, he's playing terrible. This is not like him. Something, anything. But you're right. They never said a word. He was given every pass, like a pass, not an actual pass. And like he was throwing they were talking about him having so much fight when he was throwing a touchdown at the end. Sirianni was getting doused with Gatorade and he's throwing bombs down the field. Stop it. Like, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go to my backup because that was sort of mine. Like, I was so annoyed by Brady and the Chiefs are only down 5 scores. 5 scores. It's the second half.
5 scores.
Like,
only down 5 scores.
I think at one time we weren't doing the math correctly, and he goes, The Chiefs are only down 3 scores, and I said 3 scores. It's 24 points, and then someone had to actually point out that that's 3 touchdowns and 3
2-pointers.
I'm like, to me that's 4 scores still.
Yeah,
you're right. They wanted to make this game a thing, and it wasn't. It was just fell flat on every phase. And I wish, Scott, that they had called out Mahomes because he was terrible, and I enjoyed every freaking second of it. I wasn't rooting for the Eagles. I was rooting against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch them actually get their comeuppance a little bit.
No doubt.
Yep.
Kelsey almost crying.
Oh, that was great. Dropping passes and getting lit up by an Eagle. That was
Kelsey shows up in the pregame looking like a pimp, and by the middle of the second quarter he wants to cry. What is that?
Well, did you notice that after the game he wore the pimp outfit again because he wasn't out on the field with his T-shirt and his confetti.
So Novak, since you're going to a backup pet peeve, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to my backups now. So real quick, the one thing I want to say as far as a pet peeve, and since this is our last podcast, I'm just gonna say this year was a pet peeve. I mean, 2024 football season, all in all, was an absolute pet peeve. There was nothing exciting about this year. Nothing. Not the Giants, not the Jets, not New York sports, not good games, not new teams, not great games. We had maybe one game, the Bills-Chiefs game, maybe the Bills-Ravens game. Other than that, the regular season was boring. It was predictable. It was the same tired script. So just poor all around. I will give the NFL a big fat fucking F for this year.
Love it.
So that's my pet peeve there. But my other pet peeve is another quick one. I get annoyed by you showing these people who don't deserve to get airtime and get talked about. The fact that this Bill Belichick girlfriend, who's 24 years old, is on commercials now, and she's getting airtime, and she's on these awards shows. Think about this, guys. It's disgusting. He's 74. She's 24 years old. It's like me dating a 3-year-old. What are we doing?
You realize she's old. She's older, or she's younger than my daughter. And if Bill Belichick was dating my daughter, I would be completely disgusted.
My daughter's 24. I mean, what the hell? If she walked in with a 74-year-old, and it's okay for whatever reason, this is okay. It's acceptable. It's not acceptable. He's a fucking grandfather. What are you doing? So now she's in commercials and Dunkin' Donuts and wearing Falcons jerseys and about the Super Bowl, and she's on every freaking social media thing. The NFL has got to stop with this. And not just her, all these other people that are involved. Just stop. I've had enough. I'm so glad the season's over.
Was it Big Daddy, the movie with Adam Sandler, where he's like, the guy's got wrinkled balls? What's going on there?
It's disgusting. What are we doing?
I'm sorry. I don't care what she looks like or what kind. You know, like, there's no way Belichick's just bringing it in the bedroom. It's not. You can't convince me. There's no way. Okay, he's the Shell Gordon. Remember, like when Harry Met Sally is like, who did you have this amazing sex with? Shell Gordon. Now Sheldon can do your taxes. That's like humping and pumping is not Sheldon's game. It's not a strong suit. It's in the name. That's Belichick. He knows how to design defenses to stop the Bills in Super Bowl 25. He knows how to like win Super Bowls up in New England. He's not humping and pumping. It's not his game. It's not his game.
Absolutely not.
He's Shell Gordon.
I don't know if you guys saw the pregame at all, but Belichick had like an hour show where he was going around the league and showing things and doing things. He is the most charismatic guy.
Yeah.
It was like watching paint dry. You know, it was like one of those things where I get that Bill Belichick is a great football mind, but as a personality, you know, he's a good add-on to the Manning cast because the Manning's like prod him along, but you give him a starring role and expect him to take the show, he can't do it.
No.
Yeah,
No way.
So
it's not a strong suit.
Just stop it with this girl. Woman. Sorry, woman.
Lollipop.
Mike, pet peeve?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a totally different tact than you guys share. I'm gonna go in defense of Patrick Mahomes a little bit for this week. So I noticed, not during the game, you guys are 100% right during the game and all that. I noticed like on the shows the next day and throughout this week so far, the media's been sort of laughing at Patrick Mahomes and saying, oh, we were too premature in calling this guy the GOAT. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Mahomes is not the GOAT, you know, based on this game. So I went and I looked up some numbers on this. So just in case people don't realize this, I know this is common knowledge. But Kansas City has played in 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. They've won 3 of the last 6. The 2 they got beat in, they really got smothered pretty bad, which that never happened to Brady. So I'll give that a point. But Patrick Mahomes is 29 years old, guys. He's not going anywhere.
No, he's not.
And to say that right now, not the GOAT, you know, whatever. This guy's got a lot of games to play. I don't know if you guys realize this because in part of my research, I found this out. Do you know that during the New England, what people consider dynasty, there was a 10-year gap where they didn't win a Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
Sort of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think pouring cold water on Patrick Mahomes because of this loss might be a little too soon. They could easily, I mean, like I said, they've been in 5 of the last 6. I don't know if they'd be the favorite to be there next year, but they'll be up there again. To be up there to be 6 in the last 7. So I agree. I thought the talk of Mahomes being the GOAT was premature before, but the way, and of course I go back to one of my very first pet peeves from season 1. So they're all laughing and everyone had him as the GOAT. Blah, blah. Well, no, you told us he was the GOAT. You were the ones. We didn't make that up. So they anoint somebody, and then they knock him down, and they laugh at us for saying the thing that they did.
I love that.
It just goes into all the gaslighting. We didn't do it, right, Cardone?
I love that one. We're like, well, who you asking? Like, we didn't say that. You did. The media did. You're the media.
Yeah.
But by the way, I love this part, Mike. We reran an episode last week that was from the Chiefs. It was a preview of the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl from 2 years ago, and in that preview, we had several fans from Philadelphia listen to us the week before. And we actually had a couple this week listen to us too. But I remember the best line of that podcast was you going, oh, by the way, if anyone from Philly is still listening to us, fuck you. Fuck off. That was the best
That was
any.
good.
It was one of the best lines in any of the podcasts we've done. We're in season 5, so
I'll repeat it this week. Anyone from Philly? Fuck you.
so we got a bunch of questions this week. One of Novak's friends asked a great question. He wants to know on our teams what the defining play of the year was. I'll start with Cardone because I know Cardone's answer, so I want him to get it out there.
Well, I could jokingly say, and I have to credit again my brother on this one because we've brought it up on the pod a number of times. It was actually when he called the season was over on a defensive PI on Pinnock as we were up 3-0 in week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. But I'm actually going to give a different answer. I'm going to go. It actually comes the following week, and I will say it's going to sound crazy, but as I was thinking about this, the opening kickoff, week 2 against Washington, when Graham Gano rips a hamstring or whatever he did, caused us to lose our kicking game in week 2. So now we got, what's his name, that asshole Jillian trying to kick extra points. That was the game where we set an NFL record where we scored 3 more touchdowns than the opposition and still managed to lose the game. Final score was 21-18. There's 2 plays from that game. And also a fourth and the game was tied at 18. So going back to Gano, we had no chance to kick extra points or field goals the entire game, so we had to go for it the rest of the way. And late in the game, we're driving. We get down to Washington's 22, and on a 4th and 4, our rookie Malik Neighbors drops what would have been a first down with 2 minutes left to go in that game, and Washington comes down and kicks a game-winning field goal to lose 21-18. Now, I know we went on to win 2 of the next 3 games, but again, it doesn't. It's not going to change the Giants season, but I tell you what that did do, I think. Washington, if we beat Washington in week 2, they go 0-2. They were demolished by Tampa Bay in week 1. Do they go on to have the season that they did? You never know. I mean, people can say, it's one game. You don't know. I'm a big believer that you get off to a start. Like there's a game that you win that you shouldn't have, and it could propel. Look what the Hail Mary did for the Bears in the opposite direction, right? They end up after the Commanders threw that Hail Mary. So it's like we demolished our season in week 2. Actually, it was really week 1. But we also propelled the Redskins to the season that they had. So I was thinking really about that question, Scott, and that was those 2 plays were that came to mind, because if we should have beat Washington that in week 2, not knowing that they were going to go 12-5 or whatever it was. They actually they steamrolled. Well, I shouldn't say that, but they had a really successful season. We could have hampered their season early in week 2. That was it for me, I think. And then of course that ridiculous, pathetic few weeks later, that most horrific 2-point conversion attempt that we had against the Steelers. If you guys remember that on a Monday night, that was just for shits and giggles. I'm just going to throw that one in there where we had that 4 guys and we threw the pass over there, but that was like an honorary mention. But that was my play for me, Scott. The Washington game, week 2.
Novak, from a Jets perspective.
So I actually thought about this, and I have 2 for different reasons. One is a defining play, and one is the turning point of the season play. So the turning point of the season play for the Jets was in week 4 when they're 2-1. They're playing the Broncos, and they're about to kick a 52-yarder to win the game and go 3-1 with a 3-game winning streak, lots of momentum, and they winning a game ugly, but a game they should have won, and they ended up missing the field goal and lost. Things spiraled after that. They lost 5 straight after that. Woody got involved. Saleh got fired. So I think that was the turning point of the season. The defining play of the season for the Jets was, if you remember, against the Steelers, Mike Williams ran a wrong route for Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers said he was supposed to be on the red line, and he basically, after the game, blamed the miss pass on Williams, which to me, that just tells you exactly what kind of culture and what kind of organization the Jets have. The quarterback's calling out his own player after the game because he's too good and he's too great to ever take any blame for himself, and it just defines the Jets as an organization. So those are the 2 plays for me. And of course, if I'm going to one that's the most like the Jets, it's Boogergate, when they caught Rodgers picking his nose. and eating it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mikey?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Cardone's. I mean, to me, that was both the turning point and the defining thing. I mean, how could something that stupid? Only the Giants could have something that stupid define this stupid season. Losing a kicker, not having a viable backup, and then yeah, we scored 3 more touchdowns in Washington. It seems like 5 seasons ago that game. I swear to God.
It does.
But we dominated Washington that day. I mean, we were the better team on the field. If you took the score thing away, you'd be like, holy crap, the blue team is kicking the shit out of the. I mean, we were more physical. We were winning both sides of the line of scrimmage. Daniels did just enough to get him in field goal range a few times, but really the game was for Washington was played on the other side of the 50 all day. That's just that does define this season. That's a really good. I don't know if I can come up with a better one than that. I will say that in typical Giants fashion, that the play that just made me think only the Giants this year was the 32-yard touchdown pass from Drew Lock to Darius Slayton against the Colts. The following drive after he just threw a 31-yarder to Malik Neighbors, which you could write off as lucky. When that happened, you just got to laugh. You just got to laugh and say, of course this is happening right now.
That was a defining moment because it cost us the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, it was the turning point for the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
What did Drew Lock have? Like 6 touchdowns that game or something? I mean, just give me a break with that garbage. The Colts were still alive and playing for something.
They were. They still had a chance to make the playoffs.
I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But yeah, Cardone's answer was off the charts. It was a great answer.
No, and I almost agree with Greg on the pick early in the or the pass
interference.
early in the Vikings
Season
game.
over.
But the defining play to me was actually it was a primetime game, and again, in primetime, the Giants have been traditionally bad. Under Daniel Jones, they've been really horrible. But it was against the Bengals. And Joe Burrow drops back to pass, and people are covered. He's got a pass rush on him. He steps up, and he runs for like a 45-yard touchdown. And that game, I think it ended 17-7 or something like that. It was a miserable game to watch. And the Giants were in the game for most of the time, and they had just come off a win against Seattle, so they were, I believe, 2-2 at the time when they were playing Cincinnati. But that touchdown by Burrow just encapsulates the entire Giants season. He runs for a guy that's not known for his legs. He runs for like a 40-yard touchdown, and it isn't even touched until he gets to like 2-yard line. And then he dives for the pylon and gets it. And it's just one of those things where that can't happen. And when it does, you know that things are bad. And of course, it's all about Joe Cool and how he's back and everything else. Because I think at that point, the Bengals were winless until they beat the Giants.
There was something like that. Yeah.
Winless or 1 win. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another game, guys. That's a great one, Scott, because I remember watching that game. That outside of that touchdown run by Burrow, the Giants dominated that game. I'm looking at the stats from it right here. The Giants had 24 first downs in that game. The Bengals had 13.
Yeah.
I mean, as bad as this season ended up, before we let Jones go, we had some unfortunate losses in there. We had some trouble in the red zone, but we weren't playing really, really bad. We were losing, but we weren't playing really bad. Then, of course, once Jones is gone, this whole thing came apart, except for Drew Lock pretending he was Steve Young for 1 week there.
I want to give my 2 Giant ones real quick because I watched a lot of Giant football this year. There were 2 plays for me that I thought defined the Giant season. One was the Daniel Jones missed flea flicker that basically got him kicked out of the against the Panthers. I think it was. Am I right?
Oh God, yes. Yeah.
And then the other one, which is the funniest one, is the Drew Lock clear first down where he inexplicably goes a hard right to the sideline with a wide open field.
Yeah. That was great. Or another one. I forgot about the Panther game, Novak. That's a good one. How about the Giants fumbling in overtime and losing to the Panthers? I mean, there's so many.
Tyrone Tracy too.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot, man. God.
So we got a couple more questions. So my friend Mike, he asks, what's our favorite halftime performance for Giant Super Bowls? And just for the record, Novak, the Jets had the Florida A&M marching band for their Super Bowl. So you're locked into that.
That's his favorite.
That's my favorite of all time. Didn't know that, but it was my favorite.
Florida A&M.
Yep.
The Florida A&M marching band.
They can't compare to the Hawthorne Caballeros that used to show up at Giant Stadium for all the Caballeros.
I honestly don't. Here's the funny thing. I am so focused on the game when the Giants are playing. I don't remember any of the halftime performances. If you told me, I know Whitney Houston sang the national anthem once, but that's 25. About it.
Scott, yeah, I was at Super Bowl 35, and I don't remember. I think it was Aerosmith. I was at a Super Bowl.
That's awesome.
The one the Giants got demolished by Ray Lewis and the Ravens, but I think it was Aerosmith who played the halftime show that night. I don't even remember. I was there. I don't remember. Sorry, Mike.
The only one I remember is the one Madonna. Madonna was the headliner in 2011.
Madonna
for that Super Bowl.
Really?
I have yours right here.
Okay.
It says Super Bowl XX1 was a tribute to Hollywood's 100th anniversary. So it was a show.
Right.
George Burns introduced the performers.
All right.
Jesus Christ.
Sounds awesome.
Oh,
Super Bowl XL
Yeah.
II was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Oh,
all right. Didn't remember that.
The other ones were Britney Spears and Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. That must have been the one that you were at, Cardone.
Yes. Okay.
Paul McCartney.
Don't remember that.
And then Bruno Mars and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And you were in Super Bowl XXL?
XXL.
No,
XXV.
Can't be right.
Okay, then that was it. Bruno Mars, and it says XLV1. I don't know. I can't know, but anyway, I went to ChatGPT, and that's what it said. These could be wrong, just so we know. So if anyone's gonna dispute that,
Which one had the Janet Jackson tit?
That was the Panthers.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, it was the Panthers.
Oh, it was the Panthers. That's right. Yep. Yeah.
That's probably why Cam didn't go after the ball.
Well, he wasn't there then.
That was the other.
That was the 2003 one.
So Mike also asks, what subject did we ignore or didn't take in high school or college that we can go back and do over? I'll start with Novak on this one.
What? Wait, say this again. What?
So what subject did you not take in either high school or college that you probably wanted to, or you want to now that you could do over and do? All right, I'll go first because I do have one here.
Okay.
I took a statistics class and loved it, and I never took statistics 2. And based on the way we are talking about analytics and all that, I wish I took statistics 2 so I could really make a lot of informed opinions about how shitty analytics is in the NFL.
There you go. We know about how shitty the analytics.
I enjoy doing this podcast so much. Probably a broadcasting course or something, so I could have honed my skills.
Yeah, that's a good answer, right? Yeah.
I would go. This was definitely not offered. I don't you'd have to. This is a specific field, but I would love to go back and take a meteorology class, be like a Jim Cantori. I would love to learn about wet bulbs and all that shit. Cold fronts.
So I actually took a meteorology class, Cardone. It was fun. Yeah.
I would have
loved
my favorite
class that I took. You could tell I was all over the place. My favorite college class I took was forensics. I was a criminal justice major for a little while, and yeah, that was cool. They would set up crime scenes that we go in and collect clues and send things to the lab. It was fun.
So
that's just a cool word.
At Bucknell, we had something called a Jan plan. And in January, you could take it wasn't for credits. It was just like a class for fun. And one of them was like broadcasting. And I wish I had done that because if I think I would have been good at that. If
Well,
I
you're
had
good at without taking it. So
no,
good for you.
you say you get to call like the Bucknell Bison playing basketball when back then we were good. So it would have been fun. So another one Mike asks is our number one cartoon growing up.
Oh,
So for me, I'll tell you one. It was very under the radar, but I loved this every time it came on. Hong Kong Phooey.
Oh yeah,
Hong Kong Phooey was great.
that was good.
Better than average guy.
They could not put that on TV today, I don't believe. But it was great.
I loved Hong Kong Phooey.
I always liked the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner hour, and my favorite part of that was Roadrunner and Coyote. But I also liked it. I also liked
It's mine.
Speed Buggy. I don't know if you guys remember Speed Buggy.
Yeah.
Speed Buggy.
It was this kind of a Scooby Doo knockoff, but
Yes.
it was like talking car instead of a dog. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I'd have to go Tom and Jerry. Only because
Tom and
they
Jerry
had
was great. Actually,
they had the most creative
Classic.
ways to kill each other.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It
Yeah.
was awesome.
which couldn't happen
Yeah.
today, but I remember thinking like that was a great idea. Dynamite and
Always. Yeah.
something.
Well, you hit both of mine. I was going to actually give a tie between Wile E. Coyote. I mean, the guy's one of my heroes. Absolutely love the guy. The relentlessness to get the Roadrunner. Like, I used to love the fact that he had an Acme ordering catalog and had like dynamite, like rollerblades and jet skis. I was saying, like, can't you just like find an Omaha Steaks catalog and just order some food? You know what I mean, you got money to buy like jet ski, like
Rocket
jet roller
skates.
skates and rocket skates, whatever else. But just Wile E. Coyote, and definitely, I love Tom from Tom and Jerry. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Same
Remember
thing.
when he had the suit? And he put the
Absolutely.
suit on with the. That was the best.
Yeah,
Cardone, did you think a lot of that Acme stuff was from the Lincroft Acme?
of course I did. Of course, Acme grocery chain up in the Northeast. I correlated everything with with
course.
Acme.
Yeah.
I had to.
I don't know how it was back then, but for us, Acme's were always the dirtiest stores ever. You go into an Acme and like they were filthy, or it's like who shops here?
Yeah.
There was no Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah. Well, Novak will know this, but just geography of Link. So we lived a mile away from the Lincroft Acme. Never shopped there once unless out of desperation. Novak, we used to go all the way up to the Middletown ShopRite on Route 35 and Harmony Road all the way there.
Yes.
So we went like 5 times the distance to go to ShopRite
To avoid
instead
the
of going
Acme?
to Acme. My dad infamously always used to say that the Lincroft, he wanted to airstrike. He wanted to order an airstrike from the U.S. government on the Lincroft Acme. We still talk about it to this day. They wanted to airstrike that place.
The Lincroft Acme had a big
Yeah.
yellow sign in script on the top, if you remember.
Yes, I do.
I felt bad because we used to go to Ocean City, New Jersey all the time, and there was an Acme right there on the island.
Yes.
And several years after we went there, there was a ShopRite that opened off the island. And I think Acme lost all their business because that Acme was just disgusting to go in. And we went to the ShopRite. It felt like the Taj Mahal. Everything was clean in the aisles. We went there, it was like an actual supermarket. The Acme reminded you of like something that was like out of just like, here, we got stuff on our shelves, buy it.
Awful.
It was terrible. Mike asks one more question. If we could custom order any genetic trait, what would you go for? So, like height, speed, any genetic trait, what would be your go-to? And I'll talk about this first, because when I first heard this, I thought, well, being tall would be great, but tall people die early. If you ever there's not any tall guy I know that's like 90 years old. Like think about
true.
Think about George Burns. Like George Burns was like 100. The guy was like 5'2" or whatever. You don't see a tall guy. Manute Bol, the guy's dead already. Dikembe Mutombo, he's dead. You don't see
have
these
to be
guys
7.5 feet.
Well, if I get that
new
trade, I
ball.
want to be tall. If I get that trade, like Wilt Chamberlain, for Christ's sake, guy had fun while he was on Earth, but still, he's dead. So I struggled with this one because I like head of hair. I really don't give a shit about. I guess a muscular build would be the genetic trait I'd want, but I don't even know about that. It's like.
Question. I
I
have
don't
no
know,
idea.
man. I'm thinking Pat Tillman's jawline, maybe.
I'd like to have speed.
Can
Just
it
give
be
me speed?
Can arm talent be a thing? Because then I could be in the NFL. Because it doesn't matter if you can complete a pass.
Arm talent.
I'll tell
Spud
you
Webb's
this.
leaping ability, maybe.
Oh,
Be
yeah.
my height. How about being
Yeah.
my height and be able to jam the ball? That'd be pretty fun.
That would be good. Yeah, jumping. I like that one. That's good.
I never saw the look of disappointment on anyone other than when I first showed up at Bucknell. So my dad was a track star when he was at Bucknell. And I showed up at Bucknell. I was there for baseball practice, and I'm walking through the field house, and the track coach sees me. And he's like, "Cost, I hear you're a legacy." And I never saw a look of disappointment on someone's face as much as I saw when that guy realized I am not a track guy. He looked
Not gonna
he
do
took one look
be
at me
a
as
track
like,
guy.
yeah. And I'm looking at the trophy case, and my dad still had a trophy in there about he was part of a relay team that had I think at that point a national record for relay for the 4x100, and yeah, I was not that guy. So if I had to go for something, I guess I'd go for speed.
Right on.
I like it.
Yeah, speed's good. Also, like otherworldly hand-eye coordination would be good. Yeah,
That comes in handy, actually.
yeah.
So Peacock Corner is back.
All right.
Peacock asks what we would give, and this applies to Novak too. What would we give up to get a Super Bowl? Mike and I made our pact with the devil last Super Bowl.
Yeah,
We
I'm
said
starting
we
to
would-
think that was a bad deal.
We said we'd take 10 years of shitty football for a Super Bowl win, and
Yeah.
it's basically come true. I'd do it again. I think he's looking more about would you give up sex? Would you give up food? Would you give up beer? But for me, I'd take another 10 years of shitty football to get a Super Bowl win. I really would. It's been painful, but I'd do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking body parts here? Because I got a list that I'd give up for one. I mean,
like a pinky toe or something, Novak.
Oh, are you kidding? That wouldn't even be a thought. Of course I would.
And any of the toes. Yeah.
I'd give that up for just for a 9 and 8 season, I think.
I'd probably any toe, any finger. I mean, there is not much I wouldn't give up for a Super Bowl, if I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, what's the bar? Set it for me, Peacock, and I'll tell you what I would do.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need some examples. Would you do this?
Yeah.
Right.
My house?
Right.
Sure. Goodbye.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the 10 years of shitty football for another one. Absolutely, I would still take. I would.
Yeah,
no
I would
doubt
trade it in.
would exchange that for another
The only
championship.
problem is we're on 14 now.
For sure. Yeah.
We're at 14 of our 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Mike and I felt good about taking that deal, and then afterwards we're like, well, I don't know about this now.
Oh, I would sign for that in a heartbeat.
So Peacock
How about
also.
this? Well, how about
Go
this?
ahead.
How about this? Would you take? And this would be tough for me. Like if Peacock had said, "Hey, Cardone," would you say Eli doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, but you get another Super Bowl? I'm like, ooh, I love Eli Manning that much. Like, I want him. I desperately want him to be in the Hall of Fame. But if he could guarantee me a Giants another Super Bowl championship and he doesn't get in, ooh,
Hey,
I think
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one, man.
I think you found the bar.
That's a good question right there.
Yeah.
That is good.
Because Eli Manning, I just absolutely love the guy. I mean, I think that's a tough one for me. I would to turn down a championship. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But it's at the expense of Eli. Eli will never get in. I'm like, oof.
You
that's
know
tough.
who would take that bet? Who would take that deal? Eli Manning would take it.
He would. He probably would.
You
Yeah,
mentioned this before, Cardone, when you were talking about the pet peeve, but this whole thing about the Hall of Fame really rubs me the wrong way, because if you look back at the Giants of old, and saying there's a New York bias, first off, look at the Bear team from '85 and the number of players they have in that's in the Hall of Fame. And look at the Giants team from '86. You have Lawrence Taylor, and you have
that's it.
Harry Carson.
Oh no, Carson.
But so Carson, Taylor and Carson. You don't have Banks. You don't have Sims. You really don't have anyone else. Meanwhile,
nobody on that offensive line. That's literally the best offensive line I've ever seen.
That Bears team has McMichael. It's got a bunch of guys. It's ridiculous. Richard Dent. I mean, you go through the list. Singletary.
Jumbo Elliott is not in the Hall of Fame.
Jumbo Elliott is not in the Hall of Fame. No, none of the Giants linemen are from that year.
Brad Benson could have got in just for that, just the way he dominated Dexter Manley alone.
Yeah,
gets him in the Hall.
I still think Carl Banks, his biggest problem was he played alongside Lawrence Taylor. Yeah. The guy was dominant when I watched him. He was.
Play. He easily could have been Super Bowl 21 MVP if Sims didn't go off. Banks was all over the field in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, Sims was on the ballot. I remember that. I don't remember Banks even. I don't remember his run on the ballot of the Hall. I don't remember. Carson, I know it took him like a decade. I think at that time didn't Carson get in on his last year of eligibility or something like that? Carson was even asking.
Carson
get
basically
me off
had to
list.
say, I'm not going to be eligible for this anymore. He had to basically say, I'm out before they put him in.
Carson wanted off the list. He was tired of it. He said, just get me off the ballot. I really just get off. Yeah. And they finally gave him the nod. Yeah, it's bullshit, man. All of it.
So Peacock also asks, how good will Rodgers look as a Giant?
Poke of the bear.
That's knock it off.
I don't see that happening at all.
Unless he's willing to take the deal that Novak mentioned earlier that he turned down for the Jets. Just shut up and play.
I mean, I don't think that will happen, but I think there is a very distinct possibility that next year on this pod, the two quarterbacks might be Shedeur Sanders and Justin Fields. I was
just going to say, Peacock, a better question would have been like for Giant fans, like, would you take Rodgers or Fields right now?
Which, oh God.
I mean,
I got to take Rodgers. I got to take Rodgers.
Of course you would.
There's no way of taking Justin Fields. Yeah. I would choose poison over that.
I could also see Russell Wilson being a Giant, just putting it out there.
Yeah.
The only thing about Russell Wilson that I look at, his salary is terrible. I could see Matthew Stafford or Derek Carr being a Giant before Russell Wilson, just because I think Russell Wilson's set to make like $35 million next year.
Oh,
you got it. If you're a quarterback, you got to be nuts to come to this team.
You got Malik Neighbors.
If you're a good quarterback, I mean, we aren't going anywhere in the time that a Matthew Stafford or an Aaron Rodgers is going to be here.
No,
we're not. We're not doing anything in that time. You're basically coming to say, "Oh, I had a great career. I'd like to come get my ass kicked for 2 more years before I retire."
Let me give you one scenario, Mike. What if the Giants have Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors? If you're a quarterback, do you come for that?
Who's blocking you?
Who's blocking?
Yeah, I'm just asking. That could be compelling.
Yeah, maybe after the draft, but
Scott's optimism is kicked in.
It's look at that. Cardone wants to come through the screen and throttle him.
Throttle.
So we got one more question from Peacock and Peacock Corner, and it's for Mike more than anyone else. Can St. John's win it all this year?
No, they don't have enough shooters. They're awesome on defense and they're great in transition, but at some point in the tournament, you're going to have to shoot like 80% to win a game, and they can't do that. I do think they're, depending on the bracket and the path, I do think they have a chance to win a couple games, maybe Sweet 16. That I'd take that. That would be pretty nice, but I don't think we can make that kind of run unless they start shooting.
The way I look at this,
they got beat by Villanova tonight.
I know Syracuse is not making the tournament, so in my hellhole of another 2025 season, we'll probably see Duke win.
Oh
Oh.
God,
God, you're right.
can't have
Yeah,
that.
that would just be.
I mean,
Why
Can't we
not?
get
God.
Eagles win the Super. So here I get, Yankees lose the World
Dodgers,
Series.
Dodgers,
Yeah,
Eagles, Duke.
Eagles win the Super Bowl. Give me that's. I thought about that, Scott, last week. I was like, oh my God, Duke wins the whole thing. Why not? Just pile it on.
But the Lakers and LeBron is gonna
Yeah.
win. Like, just
Yeah,
just throw it all out there.
They'll fizz. Yeah, Knicks will fizzle out they won't go anywhere. Give me a Celtic Lakers, final or some shit. Can you imagine?
We
Yeah.
were talking a little bit earlier about the whole commentating during the Super Bowl. So Dick Vitale came back this week and he did the Clemson Duke game and Dick, I love Dick. Dick overcame a lot of adversity. The people at as I say,
Can I isolate that, please?
We're children. Novak, we're children.
The Clemson fans love that Vitale is back and things like that. And then the entire game was spent talking about Cooper Flagg. The guy started out the game 2 for 10, and Clemson, by the way, ended up beating Duke. But at the end, Cooper Flagg hits a 3-pointer, and sure enough, they do the whole, well, dude, here comes Flagg and Duke. They're right back in it. It's like, of course the guy's going to hit a 3-pointer. He's missed his last 6. So he's probably going to hit one at some point,
I hate Duke with everybody, but I will not sit here while you disparage Cooper Flagg. That guy, he's pretty awesome.
He's good.
He might have had a bad game against Clemson there, but God, I was watching. I don't remember who they were playing. I was watching a couple weeks ago, and he was both ends of the floor. He was everywhere.
Well, and as I say that, Duke's beaten California 54-32. So it's like, what the fuck? But you guys got anything else?
I got one more log to throw on the fire for Eli Manning here that I didn't get to earlier, which we've crushed this thing to death. I know, but it just seems like all the, it used to be championships mean everything. Now Eli's eligible, and well, you got to have good numbers and you got to have good stats. And we've beat this to death, but there's one more log I want to throw on the fire here. Eli Manning had 44 career touchdown passes in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime to give the Giants a lead. The best all time is Drew Brees with 46, who played about 5 more seasons than Eli, by the way. Third best is Tom Brady with 43, who played 8 more seasons than Eli did. So clutch doesn't matter. Championships don't matter. I went down the list. I went down the list to look at other Hall of Fame quarterbacks on this list, and it's, Troy Aikman, 13. Eli's had that in a season, it feels like. 13. Jim Kelly, 17. Elway and Favre, who everyone, what are they? Captain Clutch, right? These guys are Captain Clutch. 24 each for those guys. 20 less than Eli. I don't, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I don't know what else to say. If you get this just feels like such a travesty, and I'll be completely fine with it if he gets in next year. I'll be like, okay, I get it. You guys made your point. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Fine. But if this thing drags out like we think it might, that's just going to continue to eat away at me. And God forbid they try to put Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan in before Eli. That is
can't. They just can't.
Inexcusable. Their numbers are not that much better than Eli's. That the lack of Super Bowl wins means nothing. It's crazy. I'm done.
That's a great stat, Mike. I had not heard that one. I know a lot of Eli stats. I did not know about the 44 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes of regulation overtime. That's awesome, man.
Yep.
So guys, one thing I want to reiterate is that we this will be our last episode of what we're calling season 5. Season 6 will start normally with the draft preview, but we'll be on hiatus for a couple of months, and And I just want to I want to thank everyone though, because season 5 has been a really good success. I want to thank both Rugged Uncle and the Carolina Beer Temple for sponsoring us. And by the way, the Carolina Beer Temple is moving locations in Matthews, North Carolina. So be on the lookout for that. We will likely do another event there in the off season, and we're looking forward to it. So. I appreciate all the support we've gotten, guys. We can't do it without the listeners, and the listeners have been behind us 100% this year. A lot of good things we had going on, a lot of good things we have going on for season 6. Um, and hopefully the Giants do better, for fuck's sake, because
Can't do worse.
it's gotta, look, I know it's good for the pod when the Giants and the Jets suck from a lot of people's standpoint, because we have a lot of listeners who are not Giants and Jets fans, and we're calling out guys like Peacock, Chris Coons, guys that are Cowboy fans. They feel our pain because they suck too, but they feel our pain. But we want success, and so this podcast is going to grow. And we appreciate all the support we've gotten.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'm not taking any sympathy from Cowboy fans. Y'all can fuck off too.
No, it was a good year. We had a lot going on, from live pods to websites and great podcasts. And so the quote of the year still has to be Cole Cardone. You love to hate the things you love, which basically summarizes us on what we do here.
And that's absolutely spot on.
And Chris's brother with the season
over.
Season's over,
which was the most brilliant call of all time.
It really was.
I hate Greg. I hate Greg for a lot of things, because as he said that, I'm like, this fucking guy, and then he turned out to be right.
And it was right.
It's like,
it was right. Crazy.
I still remember that. I was moving my daughter into her apartment in Greenville, and I'm watching on my phone, because you have YouTube TV, you can watch on your phone, and I'm watching this going, how is that pass interference? And then all of a sudden I'm getting the texts like, well,
season's over.
Season's over.
Game over. Season over.
Season's over. Week 1. Hilarious. Just another great season, guys. It was awesome. A lot of fun.
We will be back to preview the draft, and then we normally do a draft episode. We do a season schedule preview.
Yes.
We do, and then we start getting into the training camp. But we might do a live pod this year. We might do a couple of different things. So just stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date.
Yep.
Appreciate all the support.
Appreciate it.
Go get your rugged
Another
uncle.
Great season.
That's it.
All you
Rugged
people
uncle.
blessed with the hair gene, go get your rugged uncle.
It's a great year.
Have a great rest of 2025.
Right on.